Thank you.
So I just lost my, hang on, sorry, there we go. Okay, Sally Bliumis-Dunn teaches modern poetry and creative writing at Manhattanville College. Sorry, my thingy popped off for some unknown reason. It's obviously being that kind of day today. Okay, I'm going to start that over. Okay. Sally Bliumis-Dunn teaches modern poetry and creative writing at Manhattanville College, the personal essay at 92nd Street Y, and offers manuscript conferences at the Palm Beach Poetry Festival. She received her BA in Russian language and literature from UC Berkeley in 1983, and her MFA in poetry from Sarah Lawrence College in 2002. Her poems have appeared in From the Fish House, the New York Times, Nimrod, the Paris Review, PBS NewsHour, Plume, Poetry London, Prairie Schooner, Rattle, the Academy of American Poets Poem a Day, Ted Kuzer's American Life in Poetry, First Daily, and Garrison Keillor's The Writer's Almanac. In 2002, she was a finalist for the Nimrod Hardman Pablo Neruda Prize. I hope I said that correctly. Her first book, Talking Underwater, was published by Wind Publications in 2007. In 2008, she was asked to read in the Love Poems program at the Library of Congress. Her second book, Second Skin, was published by Wind Publications in 2010. Her chapbook, Galapagos Poems, was published by Cattywampus Press in 2016. Her third book will be published by Bloom Editions Mad Hat Press in March of 2018. I would presume that was already published. She lives with her husband, John. They share 4 children, Ben, Angie, Caitlin, and Fiona. Welcome, Sally. The floor is yours.
Oh, thank you so much. And Lisa, thank you for inviting us to read in the Parkland Poetry Series. You know, I've done no traveling since the pandemic, so it's fun to go to Canada for a night. And I love reading with Margot and Susanna. So I'm going to start with a poem. I don't know if you know about it, but Naomi Shihab and I put together this Dear Vaccine anthology, which was really cool. She has poets from 6 to 96, experienced, inexperienced, addressing the vaccine as though in a letter. So this is mine. Dear Vaccine, I am watching the nurse lift the small vial of you, clear as any cloudless sky. Because we have the cow to thank for your name, dear Vaccine, I am picturing 4 or 5 red Angus in a long grassed field, unfettered as the few good decisions I have made. The nurse lifts a syringe, then dabs my arm, and there's one cow in particular, standing by the weather-worn post and rail fence, the kind that lined the fields of my childhood. And this bovine's eyes shine like the pond where we dunk ourselves to ease the sweltering days, lying afterwards side by side on the warm granite slab. Dear Vaccine, I'm remembering one afternoon when Lila nearly drowned, and our father dove down, and pulled her up blue, but coughing. And we all cried with the kind of relief we had never known before. I watched the nurse and thanked her and thanked her and thanked her once more. One of the bright points, really the brightest point in the pandemic, if you can say that, is my daughter Angie became pregnant. So there are 2 poems that I'll read about that and a third that's slightly related. This is called After Winter Solstice. After Winter Solstice. Because you are pregnant, the days grow rounder with light. The long oaks bend towards each other as through a glass orb. Loose blouses like snowdrifts. I wish I had sung to you more when you were inside me and carried you less like the marriage I knew was failing. I wish I could have kept my mind in the same place as my body. This year, the winter will not drag on. I will measure the slowly accruing light and your changing form. Who knows what settles as I watch you slice the peaches? Maybe a future entomologist's fingers are finding their first meticulous rhythm. Maybe the delicate register of your child's voice is gathering its notes. This one's called Kitchen Visit. Kitchen Visit. The purple carrot's taste does not live up to its exotic appearance. Handsome is as handsome does, is what my grandmother would have said, though likely not about a carrot. Dead for 40 years, she arrives, this time in her blue print dress with large front pockets that never served as pockets, though she always let me look inside. Frost laces our front window, and a single moth blinks like a human eye, the pane of glass between us. The purple carrot on the counter cannot account for why my grandmother appears, now as a moth on the window, and later again as knitted sweaters folded in my closet, just the way she taught me. First the arms toward the heart, and then the waist folding up to the neck of sweater, like the impossible pose in yoga she is holding for me now, as only a ghost can, and inhabiting my pregnant daughter, herself a yoga teacher. I can sense her there, looking out at me from the womb where her first great-grandchild grows. And when Brett and Angie were trying sleep training on Bodhi, it kind of brought me back to my early mothering days. So this is called sleep training. Sleep training. You would cry and my breasts would fill with milk like two fat moons shining. I remember those nights as a particular weather of the skin, of tidal invocations, of let him cry a full 10 minutes. Less like sage advice than the start of a terrible psalm. I'd pace outside your room, stopwatch in hand, jealous of the elm by your window, its dark branches bending down with their miniature globes of dew, like transparent eyes looking in while the moon lit the yard. I'm lucky to be on the editorial staff of Plume, and I just did a feature where I gathered poems on acceptance and forgiveness, where that state of acceptance and forgiveness surprised the poet. So I think I had that lens on when I was choosing poems for today. If you guys don't know Plume, it's really one of the most wonderful journals around, I think. This is called Gray Whale. Gray Whale. When they read the metal tag on her pectoral fin, a surprise of dark Cyrillic letters on this gray whale, who had swum some 14,000 miles, interbraiding continent with continent, self with self. Strange that I think of you now, Father, though you too had lived mostly below a surface, the breadth of which we could not know. Until they read her tag, the cetologists had thought the gray whales off the coast of Baja were of a different species from the ones in Minsk. When I found your lacquered boxes, so small they fit into my hand with their depictions of our home, the pots above the stove, their odd discolorations, the cheerful curtained window that looked out at the pines. I felt sad I had not known your heart would swim such distance for us. You had never shown us one. And how small you had to make yourself to see each scene and paint it, like an ant stepping carefully along one of those dark passages in its hill of dirt that nobody sees inside. I'll just read 3 more poems. This is an old one. It's called Their Names, and I wrote it after 9/11, hearing the names on the radio. But I'm reading it now just to remember all the people who have perished in the last pretty horrible 2.5 years with the pandemic and the war and the shootings, and it's just kind of endless. So for them, their names. Like a rain, I feel but cannot see, the names of the dead falling. Silences I hear between first names, middle, last, are slivers of empty air between lines of rain. I want to be in these tiny silences that cannot hold their deaths, but join them to all silence. Rests in a piece of music, the quiet beneath a rock, the feather on a crow, beak closed, wings perfectly still. And this is a brand new poem. I guess it's for the animals. Kiev Zoo. Sorry. Kiev Zoo. When the elephant wakes, panting and shrieking, the keeper who sleeps in the same enclosure palms apple after apple onto the creature's tongue. Nearby, bombs explode. He offers the fruit as a prayer through a long stretch of silence that feels both interminable and fragile as human skin. Sometimes he sings to the elephant while he strokes her trunk. In the photograph that shows the two of them, the elephant's tongue extends long as a human arm, and it appears as though the tip of the tongue and the keeper's hand are holding the apple together, as in an old Dutch painting my father owned, two young girls in an amber field in fine lace bonnets, a single peach between their palms beneath gold-tinted trees, sharing the heft of the fruit, their fingers nearly entwined. The zookeeper's uniform is creviced with shadows, gray as elephant skin. And I'll end with this, I hope, lighter one. It's called Octopus. Octopus. It cannot touch without tasting, and imagine not 2, but 8 arms. Though the cephalod's weak eyes see only vague shapes, in its skin live the same powers as in the retina of the human eye. How much sexier to look at you from anywhere on my body, your prominent chin as seen from the arch of my foot, our genitalia looking directly at each other. And when I learn of this creature's marginalized mouth used only to clamp its prey, I can almost feel the heated breath from the sound cave of your mouth, your petal-tongued mouth. Thanks so much for listening. I'm looking forward to hearing Margot and Susanna.
Thank you so